Seems we're good.
Sounds good. Excellent. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on which part of the world are you at currently. I'm really pleased to have you on board for this 1 hour long webinar about digital marketing in a post-crisis pivot. And I just want to share with you that this is going to be quite intense journey. So please bear with us if we're dumping too much information on you. Without further ado, I will like to have our panelists introduce themselves. We'll start with the Sandra Tan from Singapore. Sandra, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Brianna, and to our panelists. Thank you, everyone, for coming over to this webinar on post-crisis pivot. My name is Sandra Tan. I'm from Singapore, and I run a boutique firm of consulting and communications called Esteem Communications. I'm also very in touch with digital marketing training, particularly to the hoteliers and retailers, not only in Singapore, but also in the region. And my work with them is mainly to step up the skills and knowledge, and also to help them be in touch, I think even more so with the COVID period. So I'm really happy to share with an international group here. Over back to you, Paul.
Thank you. Our next panelist is Bertrand. Over to you, sir.
Hi all, so I'm Bertrand from Switzerland. I am the founder of Swiss Digital Marketers, which is a local agency here, where we basically focus to support fintech company, especially fintech startup, which there are a lot here. And we mainly focus to bootstrap those companies before or just after the round A of funding. And so we support them on the strategy basically, but also on implementing and building the teams they will need to grow in the first months or year of their life.
Excellent, thank you. Our next panelist is Samuel from Spain. You're on mute, sir.
Hello all, thank you so much for the opportunity to being here and to share part of my knowledge. My name is Samuel Lopez-Lago. And despite working from Spain, I work in several international projects currently. My main area of work is related to the intersection between design, data, and people. And I work in several projects that are currently involving, for example, not only education and organizational agility, or also data analysis for fintech. But I would like to say that in all the projects that I'm involved in, I like to put people first. And part of the speech that I'm going to have today is basically how to interpret that data in order to put people first. Thank you so much again, and hope to speak to you soon.
Excellent. And beside our esteemed panelists, there is little me, Paul Alovich. I'm a partner with Agile Dynamics, and colleague of mine, Biliana, will make sure, as a host, that this goes as smoothly as possible. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we make it as interactive as possible. So feel free to drop us a question or two via chat room. It's wide open. We'll definitely try to cover as much ground as possible. In terms of the agenda, we have three main topics that the conversations will revolve around. We'll start with how do you think differently to up your pace? Certainly this is on everyone's mind. What is it that we got to do different to be successful in the new environment that we all operate in? We'll also look at a mindset shift that's required among the marketers in order to adjust to new realities. And we'll also look at, the best ways to manage our messaging, because clearly the demographics in terms of, buyers or customers that we're dealing with is changing. Everybody is expecting a different thing. And especially as we tread into a new territories, the messaging is really going to be one of the critical success factors. And we'll wrap it up with a word or two about the Digital Media Institute, and we'll finally also share with you a bit more about the 360 Digital Marketing Glossary that's going to be shared with all the participants of this webinar. So the first topic is going to be covered by Sandra, and if you don't mind, Sandra, I'll pass over the control to you. So just send me a request and you can pick it up from here. Excellent. And the mute button. You're still on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hey, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. When the topic was given to me on post-crisis pivot, I was just thinking, what really is a pivot? Well, in essence, pivot is like centralizing yourself on one end, like a shaft, and the other end just oscillates around it. All right. So, in business sense, we are sort of like holding on to our core business, and then to oscillate around in this very difficult COVID and to see which direction it can go. The only problem is that we're not sure if the pivot itself is sustainable. So with that in mind, I think it's very interesting when we use pivot. It's a very common social media jargon, as you would know. But really, pivot also means, is your own business sustainable? Interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, after about 6 months since COVID has started, yeah, it's been about 6 months now, some earlier than others, we have seen that although a lot of businesses have been affected, yet there are some which have surfaced very well, not as well as before, but still good enough. For some, it's also a big boom, right? We know that e-commerce, health-related products, all these have boomed and exploded tremendously. So looking at the participation list, right? The participants, most of you are C-suites and from marketing, or you run your own business. So I don't really need to go through exactly the impact of COVID itself, but I am going to look through at the impact on digital media or digital marketing itself. And the first thing I want to say is that, surprise, surprise, digital ads are still in need. In fact, it is predicted that the spending will surpass $500 billion. So if I were to go to the next slide, you can take a look at the next slide. Yeah, all right. It's not going well. All right. Paul, why don't you bring back for me, Paul? I will give you. Yeah, okay. So back, as you can see in the far right column there, the bar chart says in 3 years' time, 2023, ad spending is still going to increase. And the question is, why is it still going to increase? Well, we keep thinking that some businesses are not doing well. I think the key lies in the medium-sized companies, while the big boys, like the MNCs, like, well, let's take sportswear, for example, right? Nike, Adidas, they may have scaled back a little, right? Because they're huge. But what happens is that we have those medium-sized companies which have bandwidth and sufficient capacity, and they have advertised heavily too. In fact, right here in Singapore, just talking about sportswear, there is a locally made brand called Hydra, very popular with millennials, right? Because, well, workout is HIIT or LIT is big right now. So Hydra is very common and popular with our user because it is affordable and the advertising is comparable to all the MNC boys like Adidas and Nike. I know because my daughter bought 3 sets of sports pants, all right? And this mother only knows Nike and Adidas. So yeah, we can see the medium-sized companies growing. And when things become normal, and we pray we do get normal in months to come, what happens is that these medium-sized boys who have spent a lot in advertising would have risen up, and then the bigger boys will have to advertise even more. And so I think this accounts for the reason why advertising is definitely going to grow big. Can I go back to 2 slides back? Yeah. The second thing, overview here, this is still on overview on digital marketing, is mobile advertising. I won't have to go on mobile because we are all mobified in many, many ways, but it is slated to grow 40% year on year. And the whole idea here, number 3, is that we're keeping pace with consumers' use of technology. I'll combine it with the fourth point here, and that is consumers are the ones who will set the agenda for us. My 83-year-old mother-in-law asked to Zoom with us more often, when previously she didn't dare to even touch a laptop. She plays e-mahjong, she Zooms with us, of course she attends the church service, and she communicates with her friends, and she has an Instagram and Facebook account, active account, okay? And she tags me too. You see, what I'm trying to say is that consumers will determine. But if we are innovative marketers, we need to go ahead of the curve and help them or educate them. So the fifth point I want to say in this overview is that talent and technology must converge. I always think that Elon Musk is a visionary himself. Without him visualizing what the future will be, then we will not have the advanced technology. So technology, even AI, can only do so much. If we have the talents within us as human beings, as clever as we are, I believe it will be a good time now for us to dig deep into how far tech can go. But really, right now, apart from this overview, I want to really look at how are some ways we need to think differently. Can I move 2 slides onwards? One of the things we have to do is really to re-look at the customer journey and just look at how we buy e-commerce, right? We know it's blooming, it is growing, but there are a lot of things that we need to know about how customer buys. For example, abandoned carts. This is a huge problem that we need to understand why people want to abandon carts. If we go to the next slide here, it will give us a hint to see why consumers abandon carts. It's simply because they don't really want to pay for shipping. So if we want to have a growing e-commerce business, the consumer behavior is that they do not want to pay, and free shipping is almost a must. What are the chances, let me ask you, of them buying a good? Well, according to Gartner, it says that 27% chances of consumer buying if there is free shipping, and only 10% of them buying if there is no free shipping. Back to the slide. The second thing about e-commerce, I'm still one point e-commerce, is the business of returned goods, or rather the retailer's headache, right? This is a major bane and burden to retailers. Let me just share with you, you know, in worldwide, in US and Europe, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of goods are returned post-Christmas. And it's almost 30% of returned goods that you buy. And if it's a piece of clothing, it is 40%. Now, when the retailers, we get back the returned goods, mind you, out of those goods that they have, only 50% are sold. In other words, retailers have to bear the burden of returned goods. And that behooves us marketers to ensure the process of returned goods management is on top and processing well and well communicated to all departments. So this is something we have to know. And therefore, customers expect us to have excellent service, particularly in returned goods management, and also 24/7 operations and answering the calls. How else can we understand the customer journey? We need to know, number 2, the buying patterns are all converging through mixed technologies. It's like saying I don't just buy Adidas from one direct site of Adidas. There's mixed technologies and mixed sites. Affiliate programs like in Singapore is Shopee, in Lazada, and in worldwide there is Alibaba and Amazon, the biggest player. And also from mobile wallets, like in Singapore, the Grab is also a mobile wallet. And in there itself, even though it's a ride-hailing app, it is also a place for e-commerce, and also directly from social media. So mixed sites, basically, that people are buying from, and that we have to know. Relevance for marketers, don't sell from one site, but from many sites. And finally, there are over orders of some goods, like health-related goods, like supermarket goods, FMCGs, and certain technologies. But there is a total lack of orders in another sector. I can think of hospitality, right? That is a very tough, and aerospace industry too, very, very tough for these marketers. But you know, where there is a light, so in domestic tourism, and say in Singapore, where there's staycation now, like I am now in a staycation in the Fullerton Hotel, I give them just 2 cents worth of publicity here. You know, this is how they try to gain the business. So we need to tap on gems, or we may need to just pivot our own business. So apart from deeper analysis of customer journey, if we can go to the next slide, right? We also need to look at ways in which to invest in marketing technology. And there's a plethora of technology. So yeah, a lot of you are marketers. So we know that omni-channel marketing is a must, right? So we have the mainstay of SEO, SEM, CRM, but we also need to tap on chatbots and SMS marketing, Telegram marketing, and of course the infamous TikTok, which we do not know the future of until, I don't know when, maybe a month or a few weeks from now. And it's possible replacement, right? And that's Instagram Reels. So omni marketing channel is a must for marketing. And second point here is entertainment is of great need right now in marketing tech. So I always say in this COVID period, 3 lives have surfaced: live experience, live engagement, and live entertainment. So let me just explain what I mean. Let me just go with live engagement first. And as you know, China and possibly India too are way ahead in this live streaming business. So if I were to print a date, I remember, Paul, you had some research done somewhere. I remember China is about 5 times ahead of Western society in this live streaming e-commerce business. But I'm sure we're all going to catch up. And you know, in my marketing class, in my retail class and hospitality class, I actually make everybody try to do a video, or at least in front of us. I do a live streaming. It need not be serious influencer marketing, but people need that live engagement. Even in markets, there is also live engagement, live streaming. I'd like to also mention about this company, the next one. It's a beauty company in China called Lingtingxuan, and they were really doing very badly in January when it is the periodic Chinese New Year. But in 2 weeks, tapping on Alibaba's e-commerce solution, that company turned around with almost 400, or I would say 3-fold business by February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, selling just 1 or 2 signature products through the live streaming, which is the Camellia Cleanser. What did they do? What they did was they had 1,500 sales promoters. They trained on the spot 1,200 of them to be live streaming where they are. So instead of retrenchment, when business was down, in 2 to 3 weeks, the company trained them up by Valentine's Day, right? Comparing Chinese New Year in late January and February 14th, you know what? They have made 3-fold business, selling the key signature. So therein lies the beauty of jumping and plunging into e-commerce, but you need the infrastructure and you must have the courage to move on into this. I go back 2 slides back here. I'd like to go into the idea of live experience in just talking about entertainment. A lot of museums all over the world have started virtual tours. Esplanade in the concerts and in London too, they have empty audiences, but you know, the concert goes on. So the entertainment and experience of a concert is still there. In fact, Sentosa, the small island of Singapore, was during the lockdown period, used Nintendo Switch for a virtual tour. Can you see how clever that is? Because Nintendo is selling so well, they combined it and they had a virtual tour, a virtual experience for that period of time, which was 6 weeks. And so that was virtual sales. There you go. So I want to move on to the next point, which is the video range. Sorry, back to the video. So video is just the skill which a lot of people and marketers need to adapt and improve and step up, because to have entertainment, video is here to stay, and it's going to be staying here for a long time. Because as you can see, Reels is starting, TikTok is still going to proliferate, and of course we have the all-abiding YouTube. What videos are they looking at, ladies and gentlemen? They're looking at how-to videos. They're looking at listicles like top 5 destinations, top 5 products, etc., top webinars to go to, yeah. And the third thing is, of course, sales and promo. So these are the changes that are to come. I'll move on to a third part before I hand over, and that will be on the idea of virtual selling. Now, virtual selling may be common to some because don't we sell virtually? That is true. If I were to move on to the next slide on the 4 myths. One more, just one more slide. In fact, virtual selling was already around even before this COVID period. It's nothing new. So it's a myth to say that, oh, I can't sell over the phone. I can't sell online now because I can't seal the deal, because, you know, people only prefer a salesperson in person. People work better, they can close in sales, and it only applies to small deals. No, the fact is, on the right column, as you can see, 50% of sales interactions were already virtual. 75% of buyers and 54% of sellers agreed were neutral even before a full sale was done, and 35% of respondents had bought or sold products. So it behooves us to take away these myths and to go on and to better our virtual selling. Paul, if you can go back 2 slides. So in virtual selling, we are talking about making sure we have the infrastructure. For sure, the sales pitch has to change. Everything has to be a bit more dramatic. Somebody says to sell a B2B, we need to be dramatic, even though it may not seem to be. Whereas in retail or in private sector, you definitely have to be dramatic. I just take the example of a Dyson vacuum cleaner. And what do they show in the vacuum cleaner? They suck up the bowling ball. It has to have a social proof element and is dramatic enough. And I want to say this, Dyson demonstrated the sucking up of 2 bowling balls together. Now, would you want to buy the vacuum cleaner? So
Only if I don't have a small pet.
So it is with B2B. We have to demonstrate, apart from a virtual presentation, it has to wow, it has to entertain, and it has to show proof that your business is of value. And delivering speed, transparency, and expertise are just a must, right? And there's no denying that we need to have that. And finally, our second last point, and that is our team needs to be enabled. And on this point, I want to say that it is good for coaching. I think a lot of people may say that they have sold virtually, but they have not really stepped up their ability to sell. So in this area, to enable digital migration, this enable team within the companies or coaching would be the best method to go. Finally, as with all sales, we need to have trust, because without trust, there will be just simply no sale. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll pass this time to Paul, who will round up this segment here.
Thank you, Sandra. This was quite insightful. And to be honest with you, I'm still learning about all these new developments, most particularly this, trend that we're seeing in China when it comes to live streaming. I think this is taking, the digital experience totally to a next level. I would also like to encourage our audience, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box. We'll definitely address them as we progress. And as we move forward, we'll be looking at the next topic that's pretty much gonna look at you know, making the mindset shift. So what is it that we have to do as marketers in order to take our game to the next level? And obviously it starts with the mindset. So over to Bertrand, please.
Thank you, Paul, for the introduction.
The journey.
Yeah, thanks. As you said, I mean, we have to pace up. I mean, to change faster now, because we know that the whole situation is changing. And of course, one of the biggest problem we face in company, in consulting company, in the company, in marketing service provider, it's a mindset. So people have to shift, and have to shift quite fast. And what I try to prove you or to show you there, it's basically, I pick up 5 big points, which for me are the main thing we should understand now to make sure we switch our mind. So let's go. So the first point is about content. I really like this graphics because it shows actually the beginning of my career, you know, this past with old style content. Then present, it's what we are most of us, we are already doing when we talk about photo, caption, long form videos, and so on. Being on the traditional social media channel, and using, of course, Google, because there is still a lot of intent there. But when we look at the future, we spot on 5 main trends, or actually format of content we have to use anyway. So the first one is about augmented reality. We see it's coming everywhere. So and I think, as you said, Sandra, this type of technology can help to build trust on the sales process. So maybe there is for some of you guys, there is a hint here. The second point is about artificial intelligence. I love to say that actually intelligence artificial will disappear. It will disappear because it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be omnipresent. It's already in our phone, in our search engine. It's in our cars. It's everywhere. But most likely, this is type of content we're going to have to, or technology we're going to have to use to enhance our content or to create our content. We see, for example, in the copywriting today, or in the translation industry, artificial intelligence is really strong, and it's actually helping a lot of marketers to do their job faster, better, and more global somehow. The third part is selling in virtual environment. So Sandra, you already talked about that, but it was really important, and I think it's better to talk twice about that than none. Selling in virtual environment, a lot of people, especially in Switzerland, I saw there are a few Swiss guys who attend the webinar today, so I'm happy you are here, guys. But some people are still telling me I can't sell my product or my services online. And I am like, yeah, but 20 years ago, nobody thought that Amazon could be, that a company called Amazon could sell everything everywhere. So somehow it takes time. It's about the culture. It's about a shift in our mindset. But I believe, and Sandra showed it before, everything or almost everything can be sold online, and especially also in B2B, also in traditional industry. Yeah.
Before we move forward, and we're on this topic, I just want to touch on one of the questions we got from the audience. The China model is very inspirational. And what do you see would be a typical obstacle in other areas of the world, you know, from really plunging into this kind of setup when it comes to, you know, virtual live shows? Coming from Switzerland, you know, I would imagine it's a fairly conservative market space. So do you mind sharing your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we share, I mean, on my LinkedIn, I share a few posts about this video where we see like a Chinese influencer with, I don't know, like 50 smartphone broadcasting what they do. I love that. But basically, I talk about that with one of my friends, and we, I mean, actually, it was a general manager from Louis Vuitton in Switzerland. And we both agree that they are doing what we did in Europe with, how do we call that in English? The TV shopping. You know, this whole system.
Teleshopping.
Exactly. Actually, in China, I believe they didn't know this type of marketing we did through the television 20 years or 30 years ago, or since 20 or 30 years ago. But now they are using the same concept, but on a new channel. So TikTok is full of that. We saw it on Instagram as well. And it's lovely done. It's done with a lot of passion. I love that. But basically, it's like there is a shift. I mean, this generation of influencer didn't experience what we experienced when in the 90s or in the 80s in Europe. So it's really interesting that actually in Europe we can see like from the all good things which happen in Europe, we can see that now in China. But I think now we have to look in China and bring back what they are doing very good for the next generation, because this TikTok generation didn't know or almost never experienced this TV shopping. So I guess they're gonna reproduce this concept on TikTok also in Europe. So I really believe it's coming, really.
I just want one small point there, and that is not only the difference in channel, but the entertainment value and the instant gratification through being able to answer the questions, and like
it's more interactive.
Absolutely, and
the channel. Sorry, Sandra.
And the access to e-payment straight away.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's also a point with the e-payment, but yeah, it's definitively a huge enabler in this situation. The next point is about the more regulation. Of course, we become more global. Things are a little bit more complicated. We see how TikTok have problem today. So we have to deal with that, and we have to integrate that on the content we create or into our strategy, definitively. The last point is about social media influencer. And how they will switch to video content. I think we see a very good example with what we said before, all this influencer in China. The young generation in Europe is doing really well with content creation on video. So video gonna be a must. I also wanted to make this, I like really to use like history, to explain what happened today. I can remember at the beginning of my career, the YouTube boom. It was a lot of educational content, so a lot of tutorials and something like that. And now we see that this educational content switched to entertaining content, and it's what happened. So from YouTube to LinkedIn, we can really understand the shift. And I love that. So as marketer and in our company, we have to understand it's not only about educational content or news content. It has to be we have to deal with entertaining content. There are a lot of solutions for that. So no worry, I think we will make it anyway. I would switch on the second point, which is, so this slide is big compact, but I'm gonna try to focus on just small points that you understand. So idea is like, if we want to shift, once again, if we want to make this mindset shift, we have to change our content, our vision of the content. We have to understand what the consumer wants and the consumer behavior. We know that everything changed with this COVID-19. I would like you focus on the slide and on the grocery part, which is the top left of this graphics. And we see like people are, in black, it's people will less invest in, and in blue they will more invest in. So we can see that people are less likely to go to restaurant or to pay for restaurant, to invest, let's say, or to spend into restaurants in the next months. But it's the opposite for buying groceries. So we can imagine people gonna stay a little bit more at home. I don't know if it's because of safety or because now they learn how to cook, so they are just happy to stay home and to eat their own food. But anyway, the behavior of these people change, and we have to adapt. The second focus I would like is on the bottom right of the graphic, is all about domestic flight and hotel stays. We see almost 60% say they will not invest anymore in domestic flight and in hotel. So for this industry, it's definitively like a big change. There is a huge change from behavior, and those companies have to reinvent the way they welcome people. So if hotel were like, if we can imagine an hotel where focused on business people traveling around the world, maybe now they have to focus on local people or regional people to welcome them and to create new type of experience into their city, into their mountains, because we have a lot of mountains in Switzerland. And yes, so we have to understand that our people are changing, our customers are changing. we as marketer, we have to change our mindset and make sure we adapt everything we do with that. So we have to rethink about the basics. Basics, I mean, redefine our persona, redefine our messages, but Samuel will talk about that later. And of course, readapt our storytelling. I mean, the basic marketing have to be resynced now.
So one of the themes that I see is that the job of marketer is becoming ever more complex. I mean, if anything, this slide tells us is that as a marketer now, you need to even understand the changes of the operating model that some of your customers are going to endure. So how do you anticipate and how do you become more proactive rather than to wait to see what's going to happen and then react?
Yeah, exactly. On the third point is basically, so we talk about the content, about the consumer behavior. Now it's about the playbook, what framework we should change or what we should invest our brain in and our energy in. Definitively the strategy and the insights. Sorry, I take my note again. We know about strategy today is about data. I'm sorry to say that, but I say that to all my client guys, marketer, your opinion, we don't care about your opinion, not anymore. In the past, your experience was really valuable. We could follow your best practice, but best practice which are working for my clients are not working for you or not working for Sandra client or whatever. It's really about the context. So the best, use the data, use your customer feedback. It's everything you need to work. You don't need to get guys who are gonna try to explain you how the world works. You have everything into your CRM system. You have everything in Google Analytics and all the analytics systems. Samuel is a specialist for that. But guys, understand the people through the data. The second point that we wrote here, like walk the talk and on brand purpose, I think we can translate that with build the trust. Do what you promised, do what you said, and build this trust. That's it. It's enough to make business online. It's exactly what all salespeople were doing before. Try to be a trusted advisor, trusted people, and then the business worked. It's the same online. Make sure that what you promise, you deliver your promise, and yeah, it's gonna work. The next point is about creative and content. Here, it's once again, it has to be data driven. We can't hear anymore in the marketing team who have like a Facebook page who do not engage with anyone anymore to say no we have a Facebook page, we are still working on it, we do content, we produce content, and we focus our team on that. It's enough. If it's not working, you stop, you try another channel. This is this try and learn system. There is nothing bad to try and not making it. There is a ton of reason why it will work. There is a ton of reason why it will not work, and we cannot manage all this situation. So when something is not giving you, to be clear, an ROI, you should stop and focus on something different. Normally, marketing and digital marketing work with Pareto. If 20% of your effort do not generate 80% of your performance, stop. It means it will not work. Don't try to optimize and over-optimize, spend your money, energy, and your people on it. It will not work. Move to something else. There is a ton of possibility today, so just find the one who's gonna work for you. The next point is about the media and the channel activation. We need a multi-touch point. We need to be on this customer journey at almost each stage today. So it's the same. Try mini channel, try to be there, use the media, pay media when you have to, when you are on the early stage of developing your company, but then really focus. Social media, it's huge, it's a must. Whatever the platform, every company have a platform made for them, even if it's like the new platform like Telegram or WhatsApp, but we have to be there, and we have to be part of their life on the media they consume. One last thing that I heard this morning from Gary Vee, I'm not really fan of him, but sometimes he gave like really good insight. He say, be where the audience is, be where the attention is. Okay, it's good to say my audience is not on TikTok, but today everyone is watching on TikTok. So it means even if you develop a strong brand or activity on TikTok and you are a B2B company, your client will see that. They will see you perform. They will hear your message. You know, they're gonna come there to just for you if it's enough. But basically, it's like go where people give attention. and then you're going to get this attention. The next point is about the customer experience and personalization. So stop. Personalization is not putting the name of someone at the beginning of the email, okay? Personalization is making the things working for your client. It means focus on your value, create a value. I mean, I meet an entrepreneur like 2 weeks ago. He told me, I just invest in a company when I know it's gonna break the roof. And we discussed about this concept of breaking the roof. And the guy was like, the value has to be like tremendous good. It has to be like fantastic. And I say, how do you do that? He say, make it for someone, one person. If it's work for him, it's gonna work for a ton of people in the world, and your business gonna work. Maybe you won't be the next Facebook, let's say, or next Google, but it's gonna be enough to have a nice business, which makes you happy, to have a nice purpose, and that you enjoy your life. But really, this personalization, it's really like having this customer in your mind, making everything for him, and then the customer experience gonna be good for them. So, yeah. Personalization is really, really, really important. Measurement and MROI, it's a little bit what I said before. Measurement is a must. It's about data today. You must know what you do, but I believe more or less every company does that. I don't know, 80–90% of the company I meet, they already have their Google Analytics. Then we can always discuss what you should measure or not and something like that. But it's a learning process, so we're gonna make it. But what's the main mistake I see often is when you are in marketing and high-level management of marketing, you must measure what you do with the ROI. It's not a thing for your controlling department or for your finance department. You must be able to say, with marketing, we generate money. Because on digital, marketing and sales are more or less together. But if you do not focus everything you do on your rentability of your company, on the profitability of your company, at one point it will not work anymore. So make sure you make your company sustainable, focus on this ROI. The next point is about the product and pricing. Product, once again, it's linked with this personalization. Make this product produce a value which is just work for a small group of people, and then scale to all these people all around the world. About the pricing, it goes with the concept of trust. Use a pricing model which is adapted to the digital environment. As I said, Sandra, before, with e-commerce, we see people do not want to pay for, the shipping. So just integrate it in your strategy, in your politic. You must find a logistics system or whatever the organization which makes that the cost of shipping is so low that you can offer it. And that's it. And if you can't do that, I don't want to say don't do e-commerce, but based on what Sandra said, the business model is not correct. So the marketing will be difficult to apply behind that. Okay.
A question, and I'm also being conscious of the time. I think we'll have to fast track it to our next point with Samuel. But before we go there, Bertrand, I was wondering, when it comes to return on investment in marketing dollars, when you work in the organization that is not commercial, that is not revenue oriented, a government agency, for instance, now in the light of COVID, for instance, raising awareness of the best practices when it comes to your personal health. So those are the marketing dollars that also need to be measured somehow. So just wondering if you have any thoughts on that topic. So how do you measure return on investment when it comes to value generation rather than, revenue generation?
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah.
How would you do it? Like, how would you kind of measure the success? That was the question.
But somehow every activity, even in a non-profitable company, every activity must generate a return on investment. I mean, a return for the company. And this return is always measurable. It's mean like, if the Red Cross do not invest in the right people for doing their marketing, it means they will not receive enough funding, private funding to fund the whole company. So of course it's not selling something, but there is a payback somehow. And this payback is really important the company needs that to survive. So there is always a link to say there is a return on investment. Maybe it's not dollar, as you say, but it has to be value. It has to be measurable this way.
So it has to be quantified at the end of the day.
Quantified, yeah, anyway.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This was excellent and very insightful piece. I would like to move to our next point, which is around managing the message. Let me just get the right slide. And that will be discussed and presented by Samuel. Samuel, are you still with us? Your mute is on.
Thank you so much for such a bunch of insights. I would like to recall some of the thoughts that appeared before I tackle my topic. But Sandra said something very interesting, that was that consumers are setting the agenda. At the very end, they are setting what they want, and that's a very important thought to have in mind, because that fact combined with what Bertrand said, that is to focus on data, because data, even if we module the message, that's the specific part that we are going to analyze in here, it's very important to make decisions based on the data that comes from the agenda from the customers as well. I would also like to point something that Paul said previously, that is related to the fact that that we are always learning, because we are in a specific topic where we are learning as it emerges. It's very difficult to keep up to date, but we need to try, because every day things are changing in the digital marketing field, and it's a duty from the professionals that we are in this field to keep up to date. Let's analyze some interesting data that we can see in here. The first thought that I would like to put over the table is that the pandemic accelerated the shift to online in every topic that I can recall right now, but especially for consumers. And it's very interesting, the fact that in here you can see some figures that are especially focused on young consumers, and as you can see in here, as Hans said, and millennials in here in the first graphic. But it's interesting how also, if we analyze very specific data sets, like for example, the data set that we have in China, it's possible to figure out how some of the first-time buyers are older, and they belong to another category. That's very interesting, because this type of thing is the one that I have in my mind when I say that we need to rely on data in order to affect the digital marketing strategy that we currently have, and to be able to do something that is like the center of the conversation that we are having, to pivot. It's really important to make decisions that are based in data and then be able to pivot. And it's also important to analyze how this online shift is going to what is happening right now and what is probably going to happen. We will do that in the next slide, but the figure that is on the right side of this slide, it's very illustrative in terms of that. Next slide, please. So basically, we have to keep in mind something that arise across all the presentations that we already have, but sometimes it's kind of difficult to understand, right? Let's take a look to this graphic and try to decipher what it means. And I think that is very important, because sometimes for people that is not strictly related to digital marketing, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that selling online is just related to an e-commerce platform. But as we said previously, not only with Sandra, but also with Bertrand, the channels are changing. Please take a look to everything that is related to selling via social media live stream, selling via short videos, that is in here. WeChat, that is an interesting, very interesting phenomena, and I would like to have the opportunity to discuss it more, but due to the time that we have, I believe that is going to be difficult. But take a look to this and take a look to the numbers. How are we targeting? I think that Sandra, again, you took a really interesting point of view in here that is related to video, because we need to add value to what our clients want. So for example, creating a top video, as she said, or creating a how-to video, and also linking this specific content that we are creating to the product that we are selling is going to be really interesting in order to sell. That is like at the very end of our strategy of digital marketing, we shouldn't lose the focus on selling. That is what is important at the very end. So please, next slide, because that's what the data says. But I would like not only to focus on the data, but also focus on how.
Let me ask you one very simple question. You know, like to be quite honest with you, I'm not a marketer myself. I'm a business architect. I spend most of my time developing operating models. So what I'm trying to figure out here, I would pretty much imagine there's going to be a whole bonanza of business cases, how our business should change. We should completely revamp our sales approach. We should consider different channels. So here's a question, Samuel. You know, as a C-level decision maker, how do I cut through the clutter? What's your kind of, you know, rule of thumb when it comes to decision-making process? Because I don't have a luxury of time. I need to make some very, very snappy decisions. And now just by looking at the myriad of different channels, looking at a myriad of different scenarios when it comes to selling, how do I make sense out of all this? You know, what's the shortcut? Give me some hope, you know? What do I do?
As a person that believes that data can give you a lot of possibilities in this scenario, I would say that a good approach, even if it's unfortunately the one-size-fits-all strategy doesn't exist, I would recommend to try to run, for example, 5 different experiments that are focused on 5 different channels, and try to understand what's the return of the experiment. Pay attention on designing the experiment, because it's the most important part of the experiment. Pay attention to reflect about what you want to know with your little experiment. Learn from what you experience, and rely on how people is behaving in the scenario that you pre-made for them. I think that's the most important idea.
Good old-fashioned trial and error, basically.
Yeah. Let's call it trial and error, but try to minimize the error that you can commit by designing well your experiment. Because as I mentioned, we have the pleasure to be sharing this webinar with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and some of the trends that we are analyzing here might not apply to every industry that is covered in the audience. So I would say to try to find the key factors that work in your industry by running small experiments. And of course, mixing. I hope that really that this answered your question, because actually it was a really interesting question.
Yeah, makes sense, absolutely. So now, sorry to disrupt your train of thought, but going back to the messaging and how do you go from the search engine optimization to storytelling? I think this is something that would be very interesting for our audience as well.
Yes, because of course sometimes you have a dichotomy between what the technology tells you that you have to do and what really people wants to hear and to see and to feel, and that's a really interesting point. And I would say that here in the first point, that these 2 strategies work better than one, we need to switch sometimes from a very focused mindset of doing the right things and to try to understand a little bit better about the needs that our customers have. That's a really interesting point regarding to this. The keep an eye on the target, that is the second one, is already based in what I have been trying to show around in all the time that I have been talking, and it's really related to what Bertrand said, because personally, like keeping an eye on your target or focusing it on delivering value for specific people that you are selling is really complex. It's not, as Bertrand mentioned, it's not just like putting the name of the person in the email. It's more than that. It's offering more than that. And that point is strictly related with creating 3D buyer personas. Buyer personas are a tool that is really popular in marketing, and it's really useful. But sometimes I believe that it's a little bit misunderstood, because you know, creating a buyer persona just with the age, with the kind of population that they are. If you do that and you just rely on that, I feel like you could be missing something. The concept of 3D buyer persona is very interesting in order to think about that, because it's going a little further. Thinking about what are their aspirations, like connecting with the people that you are selling to in a very emotional field. I think that's the correct way. I would say it's practically the only way to connect with the people that is buying from you. Also showing a little empathy, the fourth number is really interesting, because I'm an advocate of adding to the core of the business acumen some sort of terms like empathy or compassion, because at the very end, even if we are in business, we are people, and we still dependent from the mental models that we have as people. So try to find a way to understand what they really expect from your solution. Focus on relationship, that's very important. It's truly important. Build a relationship with the people that you want to target, because if you build a relationship, it's not going to be a transaction. It's going to be some sort of long-term, not from point A to point B, but a long-term journey that is going to be very interesting in terms of return of investment. And to close, because I feel like it's really interesting as well, is the concept of staying in touch. We analyze some sort of like platforms as platforms that are related to retail and so on. But I believe that everyone in here in this webinar can have in mind really good and really bad experiences that are related to purchasing something online. But I'm pretty sure that a huge percentage of the bad experience that we can have are related to a brand not keeping enough communication with us. The communication doesn't end when the transaction is over, because, you know, if we think about how beautiful it is to receive a thank you note, even if it's physical or digital or whatever, but having the feeling of a company who truly cares about their customers is one of the most important data that we can have. I wanted to talk about data because I think that data is the cornerstone that we have in order to make decisions and to trace our strategy. But I will also like, with these two last slides, to have the opportunity of saying data is important, of course, but in our strategy, it's very important to keep focused on people and other factors, like, as I mentioned before, like compassion or empathy, etc. Because at the very end, they are the ones that help us to pivot from a model that is more related on revenue and for a model that is related to people, that for sure is going to be a really interesting in terms of.
We got to make sure at all times that we always keep in sight that these numbers represent people, and we got to make sure that we really understand their needs, wants, and expectations, as well as their dreams to a certain extent, in order to come up with the right message. As one of the first slides pointed out, you know, some of the customers are now, you know, a fairly old people, you know, so clearly they will expect a different messaging that's going to be geared towards their attitudes.
Thank you so much, Paul, because I feel like that's the perfect summary of what I said. It's the perfect wrap up, you know. But basically, it's yes, in an age like the one that we are living right now, that is so focused on big data analysis, it's difficult to sometimes to switch our mental model from big data to understand that behind every sort of small piece of data, there's a person behind it. So having this ability of zooming out and seeing the big picture with a pool of data and numbers, and zooming in and understanding a consumer that we have that is trying to make a transaction in our e-commerce in a remote part of a remote country in this place called world, is I think that's the key to be one of the keys to be successful in thriving in these uncertain times in digital marketing.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Samuel. This was very insightful. Everybody, I'm really, you know, conscious of the time. I know we promised you 60 minutes, so I'll try to wrap up the conversation in next few moments. Essentially, what the key message is that we have heard from our esteemed panelists today, we got to start thinking differently. We definitely have to, take a different perspective on the things. And what's really going to help us is we got to consider a mindset shift. So we definitely, among other things, we have to consider is to look at the change, but changing ourselves first and foremost. And at the same time, the messaging has to be adjusted. Clearly new times are, calling in for the different types of messages that we'll be sending to our customers, to our employees, as well as to all the other stakeholders. And that needs to be basically embedded into a data-driven model. But don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to make some errors and mistakes. Try to do it in a controlled environment because the budgets are scarce. But there are fine methodologies and methods where you can deploy the best and finest of the design thinking to really have an inclusive scenario when it comes to innovation. But at the same time, don't break the bank when it comes to doing things differently. On that note, one thing that we have done differently is as a consultancy, Agile Dynamics that I work for, we have been faced with quite a bit of challenges in this new normal when it comes to learning. And we put our heads together with some of our respective clients to put together a Digital Media Institute, which is a digital marketing training academy that, among other things, offers online as well as in-class trainings. And I'll leave you with this pretty much as I will share the presentation deck with all the participants of this webinar, as well as the free glossary that we have developed as part of the curriculum. So that's going to be one of our gifts over to you. And we definitely encourage you to come back to us with any questions or suggestions, as well as if you have any immediate digital marketing challenges that we might be able to assist you with. We would definitely like to hear back from you. So I'll just loop back our esteemed panelists for the final notes. Sandra, over to you.
Well, I just want to answer one question. You said, well, how do you measure the value? I think we still need to go back to data. But the truth is we will be offering value in this new normal if we are selling what people need. And to find out what people need, we need to go back to data. And if we have new technology or new innovations and we can't find the new markets, then we have to create the need. And until we meet those needs, there will be no value measurement here. That's what I want to leave to you. And that will be a new pivot.
Thank you, Sandra. Bertrand, any final thoughts?
Same that I said before, one of the main problem we face, or challenge we face is, of course, there is innovation, changing the model we operate or everything, but everything starts with us and our mindset. So changes mindset, try to, accept that the change world, accept that, yes, a lot of work is coming for us, guys, sorry. But we need to adapt and make sure our company stay profitable and sustainable. So content, consumer behavior, our playbook, and the last things that's going to be in the presentation, but we didn't talk about because I take so much time, is about the people. There is a very good information in the presentation about people, and we have to focus on the people we need to onboard and to work with.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bertrand. Really appreciate it. Samuel, any final thoughts from your end?
Yeah, I think that the scenario that we are facing, it's extremely complex and probably is going to get more and more complex. And I think that a short reflection about how to change our mindset from linear thinking to systems thinking, because I was inspired with what Sandra said just right now. And it's like with all those actors and all those items having interactions with each other, it's impossible to face this just thinking about regular connections. We need to think about everything it's interconnected with each other. Every decision that we take is going to affect many other factors. And that's like, I truly believe in my experience that the best way to do so is to embrace a systems thinking approach.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time. And I hope you found some value in this webinar. We definitely encourage you to stay in touch with us, and we'll be looking forward to hearing back from you. This is it for now, and hope you have a great day ahead of you, and looking forward to hearing back from you soon. Cheers. That would be all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.